I'm Talia Ricci. Tonight, clients of a Chinese medicine clinic are advised to get tested for HIV and hepatitis.
The risk is significant enough that we wanted to alert clients.
York Region's probe of the clinic found inadequate infection control practices. Plus,
we didn't know what's happening, and after some time we heard gunshots.
A man is fighting for his life after being shot by a Toronto police officer. We'll have the latest on the SIU investigation. And
we know how urgently we need these new high-capacity electric ferries.
Toronto Island ferries are due for a replacement, but we'll tell you why it could be years before that actually happens. Health officials are asking clients who received certain services at a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in Richmond Hill to get tested for bloodborne infections as a precaution. This comes after York Region was made aware of health concerns at the clinic. Anam Khan reports.
Waikui Shu operates from this residence in Richmond Hill. Today, York Region put out a public notice. They're advising clients who underwent wet cupping and microneedling services at the clinic between October 1st, 2015 to June 7th, 2023 to get tested for hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. Wet cupping is a therapy procedure that draws blood from the body into a cup.
In this case, we determined that the cups were not properly cleaned and sanitized and sterilized according to IPAC best practices in between clients. So therefore, some clients may have been exposed to other individuals' blood.
Derma rolling penetrates the skin with needles.
The device that was supposed to be used as a single use, so for one client only and then disposed of, was used on multiple clients without proper cleaning or disinfection in between.
After the investigation on June 7th, the region immediately issued a Section 13 under the Health Protection and Promotion Act to stop the clinic from providing these services. CBC visited the house where the clinic operates. A woman who came out of the house asked us to leave and refused to comment. I did speak to some of the neighbors around this area, and they told me that clients would regularly park on this street, and it was causing a lot of disturbance. Now, I did speak to a resident, and she said this raises concerns about safety procedures in private clinics. The investigation came as a shock to many in the neighborhood.
I'm beyond words. I just pray honestly for those people that they're okay. That makes me beyond sick. I don't know what is happening to our world. That's not okay. You're dealing with vulnerable people. You should know better on you. Like, shame on you. I'm appalled.
Erdman said the clinic did not have records of the clients, so it is unknown how many clients may need to get tested. She says people are often asymptomatic when infected with these viruses, and that's why testing is crucial. Anam Khan, CBC News, Richmond Hill.
The province's police watchdog is investigating after a 25-year-old Scarborough man was tasered and shot overnight. He's now in hospital in critical condition. Dale Manukduk has more.
It was scary for us as well because we've never seen anything like this before.
Maren Neenan lives on Sherwood Avenue in Scarborough. Early this morning, she saw a commotion across the street.
Basically, somebody panicked, like the top house people panicking in above, so we didn't know what's happening. And after some time, we heard gunshots.
According to neighbors, a family lives on the ground floor of the Sherwood Avenue bungalow, and an unknown number of people rent out the basement where the incident occurred. Ontario Special Investigations Unit says Toronto police were called to the home near Pharmacy in Lawrence at around 2:30 this morning. They were responding to a man in crisis, reportedly with a knife.
Officers arrived and there was an interaction. A conducted energy weapon was discharged and an officer shot the man 4 times. The man was struck, I believe, 3 times, and he was taken to hospital where he is currently in surgery.
The Special Investigations Unit, or SIU, investigates anytime there is an officer-involved incident that results in the death or serious injury of a person, the discharge of a firearm, or the sexual assault of a person. This is the 3rd time in the last week that the SIU has invoked its mandate in regards to a Toronto police incident. However, the first in which a person in crisis was reported. It's unclear if Toronto Police's mobile crisis intervention team was involved in the initial response.
It's a good question. I don't have any information on the type of officers who may have responded. Just the information I have is that officers responded to a man who was in crisis.
Investigators spent the morning speaking to witnesses, including some who were aboard a TTC bus at the time of the shooting. The SIU is asking anyone with information come forward. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Police have arrested a 15-year-old girl in connection with a series of home break-ins and vehicle thefts across the GTA.
She was going into houses at night, breaking in, stealing personal items, cash, and vehicle keys, and stealing vehicles as well.
Halton police launched their investigation after a series of nighttime break-ins between July 1st and July 11th. They took place in the 8th line and Upper Middle Road area of Oakville. Investigators say a number of the victims were at home sleeping when the break-ins occurred. Detectives learned similar incidents were also happening in York and Peel. Police from Halton, York, and Peel then teamed up, arresting a 15-year-old Mississauga girl late last month. It's alleged she was in a stolen vehicle at the time. A search warrant was executed at a Mississauga home where police located stolen property and a replica firearm. They also recovered 7 stolen vehicles during the investigation. The teen is now facing a long list of charges. Well, it's a rite of passage in the summertime in the city, hopping on a ferry to the Toronto Islands. But the vessels are aging and due for a replacement. And it could be years before that might actually happen, thanks to a new delay in replacing the fleet. Farah Morale explains.
Waiting in line for a ferry at Jack Layton Terminal is pretty much synonymous with summer in the city.
I mean, I've been like way back there, and you have to wait for a very long time. Yeah.
It's usually pretty busy. It's usually backed up all the way down there, but today it's pretty good.
Each of the 4 ferries in operation have different capacity. The biggest holds just over 900 people, and the vessels are aging. The oldest built in 1935. But a new plan to replace them with new, higher capacity electric vessels has now been pushed back.
So what we see is a time frame right now that puts the ferries at 2026.
The area city councillor says the delays are due to the pandemic and continued consultation with the community.
We know how urgently we need these new high-capacity electric ferries, and also continuing to work with staff to figure out any strategy that we can have to put these boats in the water sooner rather than later.
It's part of a chain of disappointments that we've had.
Dana Green has lived on Ward's Island for nearly 3 decades. Much of that time, she says, has been spent waiting for newer, better boats that residents like her rely on.
Of course, we need new ones, but it's so disappointing that it's taken now 10 years to get to finally a model of an electric boat, but it still has the 1950s mechanism for docking. And it's still very unwieldy for passengers to disembark.
I've worked with many older ships.
John DeL has spent 50 years in the marine industry, supervising ship construction, repairs, and inspections. He believes the timeline for the new fleet is realistic, but says it's critical in the meantime that the older ferries are being well maintained.
Just as the same with an older car, is it may be very hard to find parts. There was a ferry down here in Atlantic Canada where they had to specially make the parts overseas because they were so old and not nearly as old as most of the Toronto ferries. So there are those issues. Again, it comes down to the maintenance procedures and the inspections and so on that are done.
I heard like a boom. Last year, 20 people were injured, one seriously, after one of the aging ferries struck the dock. The results of a Transportation Safety Board investigation have not been released, but in a memo to City Hall last fall, it identified safety measures that need to be followed. The city says on its website these ferries are, quote, well maintained. It sent us a statement as well that says the ferries have to be inspected annually every year and be certified by Transport Canada. In the meantime, the waiting game continues for these new electric vessels. We know the city put out a request for proposals last month. The hope by many here, and of course residents who rely on these ferries, that there won't be further delays. Farah Morale, CBC News, Toronto.
Popping outside now for a live look at the city. This is at Queens Quay and Spadina. Partly cloudy and sitting at 18 degrees. Ethan Williams joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Ethan, no complaints about the weather so far this week.
Well, Talia, these last couple of days really marked by this nice, comfortable weather we've been seeing. Not really a whole lot happening in our atmosphere. It's been quite nice, but a little bit of humidity going to start to return over these next 2 days here. Nothing too serious, nothing likely like we saw last week. No heat warnings expected in our area. But with a little bit of humidity means that we are going to start to see the chance of storms build in again and potentially a severe risk for us a little bit later in the week. But earlier this afternoon, the radar picture showing a mostly sunny sky through much of southern Ontario. Just a few showers really here and there. A few stationary storms in southwestern Ontario around Windsor. For Toronto, tomorrow morning, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies to start the day, but could get a little breaks of sun here and there. Some cloud clearing as we head toward the noon hour. Temperatures still comfortable. We hit around 4 p.m. and we could see that humidex creep up close to that 30 mark, and some possible showers moving in for your drive home as well. I'll have your full weather details, Talia, coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, school might not be on your mind yet, but with just over a month until kids are back in the classroom, the Ford government is revealing some changes to the school system. It's part of the government's push for what it calls back to basics education. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the latest.
It's the 1st of August, smack dab in the middle of summer vacation. So back to school is likely the furthest thing from the minds of students or teachers in Ontario right now. But someone who is looking ahead to the new school year, Education Minister Stephen Lecce, announcing new measures that he says will refocus school boards on academic achievement and the development of life and job skills.
Here we go. Let's start with a really hard one.
The centerpiece of the reforms, a new reading curriculum.
This change is really important because there were a lot of kids who really weren't getting what they needed in the primary grades of school.
So Nigel says
The emphasis is on phonics, teaching kids to sound out words.
There's a lot of evidence to show that that is just the most efficient way to teach kids to read. So yes, and that has been really missing from the curriculum before.
You had so many good numbers.
This comes after recent overhauls of the math curriculum and the science curriculum. Now, starting in September, every Ontario school board will have to report its progress on the Back to Basics priorities.
We have no issue with being transparent about what happens in our schools because we know we have one of the best public education systems in this world.
Boards will also be required to post their stats on student absences, suspensions, and expulsions, and information about professional development days, including the topics, content, and speakers, at least 2 weeks ahead of time.
If parents want to see what's happening, I think they should have access to that information. Professional development days should be meaningful and should help to allow people working in the classroom to meet the needs of the students.
Another change, the government will let Teachers College students work as supply teachers before finishing their training. Under the current rule, student teachers can only work under supervision.
In front of the classroom on your own should not happen while you are still in Teachers College. You should be with another teacher who's going to be your mentor or your guide.
We requested an interview with the Education Minister, but were told he was not available. Mike Crawley, CBC News.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Dalton Pompey into the second deck.
That name might be a blast from the past. Mississauga's Dalton Pompey played for the Blue Jays from 2014 to 2018, living out a childhood dream. He had a couple brushes with fame as a professional baseball player, but now he's trading in the batting helmet for a police hat, starting a new job with the Hamilton Police Service. So how does one go from stealing bases to stopping crime? Our Greg Ross caught up with Officer Pompey to talk about his career shift.
Dalton Pompey, no stranger to wearing a uniform, but this is not the uniform that a lot of people are going to be used to seeing you wearing. Talk about how you make the transition from professional baseball player and now to police officer.
I think there's a lot of similarities between being an athlete and being a police officer, right? Like working in a team environment. I got a lot of girls and guys in my squad that I work with every day, and we lean on each other for support and helping each other every day with whether it's calls or paperwork or whatnot. I love how every day is different on this job. There's no, one day is not like the last day.
So you're a Mississauga guy, made a big name for yourself in Toronto, obviously, with the Blue Jays. How do you land in Hamilton?
Deputy Chief Diodati reached out to me from my old team that I was playing with, Guelph Royals, in the IBL. Last year, I had voiced that in the Toronto Star that I wanted to get into emergency services, and he had reached out to the owner of the team. So I came here and they kind of laid it out for me and told me what it is and what a great place it is to work in Hamilton. You're right though, I'm not from here, but I've learned a lot being here. I've learned the geographics of the area, I guess you could say. Being in the East End a little bit, being in the mountain a little bit, and being here in Central. I love it, honestly. You get a little bit of everything.
Is there anything you learned as a young baseball player making his way up to the major leagues that you're able to take into this career?
The one thing is just being patient, for sure. I think that, you know, every situation, like I said before, is different. So when you're dealing with people, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're going through in their life. You're just kind of there in that moment, and you kind of have to just try to work with them and try to help them the best way that you can. You know, in baseball, it can be frustrating at times too, right? It's a game of failure, and it definitely teaches you patience and, you know, remaining calm and collected and keeping your emotions in check. And it's the same thing with this job as well.
I mean, there's that moment when you steal second and third. I mean, that was a big moment for the Jays in that playoff run. I mean, how do you remember those days?
It was so long ago, but it feels like yesterday, you know? Like, I feel like I remember being in Kansas City. I remember being in Texas. I remember, you know, 2016 too, I was there and against Cleveland and stuff like that. I'll never forget the energy that I felt, you know, from, you know, not only people in Toronto, but all over Canada, and just like the positivity that we all had towards the team and not being in the playoffs in 20 years and having that opportunity to like put smiles on people's faces, right, and give them something to cheer about.
A lot of Blue Jay fans here in Hamilton. How do you deal with that now in this new career when people come up and they recognize who you are?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was working and I had a couple of people come up to me and just, you know, say hello. Everything's been positive to this point. I think that it's important that for me specifically to know that, you know, I will never not be a baseball player. I will always have played for the Jays and lived that life. But now that I'm doing policing, it's something totally different. And I'm only 30. I have the rest of my life to live, and I wanted to be a positive one and a one with purpose. So that's why I decided to be here.
Emancipation Day was marked across Canada today. It recognizes when slavery was banned throughout the British Empire 189 years ago. In the Bloor and Bathurst neighborhood, there was music and people in the streets. They were there to share the significance of the day. Take a look.
August 1st means to us, this is a day in the milestone of African people, and this is a day that we should recognize and celebrate, and for all Canadians to be engaged with this incredible day. It's a wonderful opportunity to walk in a neighborhood called Bathurst and Bloor. Now we call it Bathurst Street because so many considerable assets are in this neighborhood, and we can trace the history of people and the Underground Railroad right here in this neighborhood. So we thought it was important today to walk along Bloor Street, which is also a major artery on the street, to say to Canadians, today is August the 1st, Emancipation Day. Recognize it. Think about what you are emancipating from. And so this is the significance of the day. As we bring the drums out, we hear the voices of people, we walk along, and we think about why are we here doing this? The numbers over history mean many things to us. 1836, 1834 is just a day. But here's the thing about emancipation. 5 people heard that they were free, so they got excited. And maybe 15 people heard later on that they were free, so they too got excited. And then the numbers swelled right across the Commonwealth in the British Empire. So today we might not be 6 million people, but we are 6 million people in ideas, in aspirations, in families, in values, in being Canadian. It means that my heart is going to jump out of my chest. It means to me that I'm not the only person in this world. It means to me that other people are in alignment. It means to me that people today feel a sense of excitement, feel a sense of responsibility, feel a sense of keeping on, keeping on. That's what it means to me. It means to me that one individual can just have an idea and a spark, and a whole bunch of people think, you know what, I also want to be the torch bearers. I also want to be the matches. I want to be the lighters. I'm going to amplify it and shine my cell phone light. That's what it means to me today.
Ethan's back now with a look at the extended forecast. Ethan, what's the rest of the week looking like?
Well, Talia, our stretch of very comfortable weather definitely continuing into today. Here's a look at the afternoon temperatures across the region, and especially around the GTA. Low to mid-20s for the most part, and with just a little bit of humidity in southwestern sections, we were feeling closer to 30. But for the rest of us, especially around the Golden Horseshoe, really temperatures and humidity and humidex values rather were pretty much bang on right next to each other. Overnight tonight, we are looking for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms continuing. Could be a little bit cloudy tomorrow in the GTA to start the morning, but then as we head through the afternoon, some breaks of sun here and there, and then clouding back over and possible showers as we head toward the commute home. The next best chance for organized rainfall likely coming through on Thursday with some showers and thunderstorms possible. And again, rainfall amounts here are going to be largely dependent on where we see those thunderstorms. Could be a good 10 to 20 millimeters in some spots, but locally higher amounts in some storms. We really don't need the rain all that much. We had a very rainy July, especially in the GTA, where we had over 150% of our average July moisture. That was also the case in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. But you go a bit west, Sarnia, London, over 200% of your average July moisture, and it's possible that London could be having its rainiest July on record if that number verifies. For Metro Toronto, though, next couple of days here, temperatures will start to warm up. Those humidex values getting into the low to mid-30s once again. Comfortable to start the long weekend. Temperatures only in the mid-20s, mix of sun and cloud for the most part. Could be a little bit stormy for the holiday Monday before things begin to clear out for Tuesday. So a couple of days of a little bit more humidity here, Talia, but then comfortable as we start the long weekend.
Thanks, Ethan. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Shannon Martin has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. And we'll leave you with a look at tonight's supermoon, the first of 2 supermoons this month. Tonight's moon is called a sturgeon moon. On August 30th, you'll be able to catch a rare blue supermoon, and you'll want to put that date in your calendar because the next blue supermoon won't happen again for 9 years. Good night.